Welcome to Lower the Bar with John and Joe. Remember to breathe. This is your Power Hour. Oh, welcome back. We're glad you joined us again. And welcome to the show. And how was your week, Joe?
Different with that big snowstorm.
Ice storm.
Two of them.
Yeah.
Not one of them, two of them, but it didn't bother me. I had a quiet weekend at home, cooking.
Did you lose power?
It doesn't matter because I have a generator.
Oh, aren't you lucky?
Yes.
Yes. I do not. I lost power, but very briefly, because when I got up, I mean, obviously I had electricity, but I noticed that all the appliances in the house and the clocks, everything was blinking at 4:28 or something like that. So I know that it went out early in the morning, but we were very fortunate. There's still people today that still have no power.
Right.
In the region.
Yes. My granddaughter has no power. I think she's in Waterford, and nobody has any power. Although she said she thought she would have it by tonight.
Well, that would be good.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully
Send
she's
prayers
got it.
for everyone that suffered. And,
Yeah, she's already lost everything in her refrigerator and freezer.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
It was brutally cold, too.
Yeah.
We were down to the teens and single digits here at nighttime. So people here in the Northeast really suffered from this ice storm and snowstorm. I heard that I used to be up in Saratoga, and they got almost 18 inches. I know. I made that same face when I was told that.
In Saratoga County,
I know
must
your
be
listeners
north.
can't see Joe's face, but she just made a scrunchy face. So, yeah, 18 inches on top of the ice.
Okay, so that must have been up north Saratoga County.
Yes, and
Not in
Warrensburg,
Sa-
yes,
Oh,
up
yeah.
north. Going
Where I used to
the
live,
Adirondacks.
Bolton Landing.
Yes.
Ooh,
up
they've
there.
had a tough year with weather, between floods and... But anyway, on a brighter note,
Yes.
it's spring.
It is.
It's spring.
It is
And
here.
it has sprung all next week, 50s. All next week. We won't have any snow in a few days.
From your lips to God's ears, let me tell you, as my mother used to say.
Yes, my mother did too. And my grandmother. God love them. Anyway.
Speaking of family,
Yeah.
we're still on triggers, people.
I don't know if
So,
we'll ever get off triggers because there
Yes.
are so many.
Joe, it really is what impacts us in our life.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not triggered, then,
Then we're really dead because
That's very funny. This is true. This is
really,
true. But
because triggers are normal. It's how you respond to the triggers that
Absolutely.
you can change.
Absolutely.
So when I think about triggers, what is the main trigger that triggers everybody? Well, almost everybody. I guess you can never say everybody. Frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Think of the things that frustrate you.
And
You get up in the morning and your power doesn't work.
Okay, perfect example. But what does frustration generally lead into? Anger?
Yes, over time, into anger. And if you don't have a good anger management program of self-control,
Right.
it can lead into lots of different things. So, what are the causes of frustration? Not just things that don't serve you as they usually do. And I'm thinking about, well, just think of when you get up in the morning, your hair dryer doesn't work, or there's no hot water. I mean, those are tough things. But it's not always things like that. Your attitude can have a lot to do.
Absolutely. And you know what, another thing? I don't know why this just came to me. We have reactions to things. So when you're talking about frustration, it made me think of this. There are things that maybe we're not that good at, or that we really struggle. And then we know we have to confront that, or we're going to have to face that or deal with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Like your printer and your scanner. Oh, yeah.
You personalizing that.
Oh,
joke.
definitely.
Yeah. But the point being, we already beat ourselves up a lot, for so many things. And this issue of frustration and triggers is so important that we begin to bring awareness to this, because it really is probably one of the biggest impacts in our life, right? I mean, we get frustrated a lot. Everybody does.
And that's a trigger. And that's just life. What a boring life you would have if you could come home at the end of the day and say, nothing triggered me to be happy or sad or mad today. Really?
No, you're right. Absolutely.
But we don't think of it that
No.
way.
No, we don't.
So, go ahead.
No, I was going to let you continue.
Okay. How do you protect yourself from being frustrated? Personally, I don't agree that you can. You can only protect yourself from how you respond to the frustration.
True.
I mean, some things just aren't worth you messing up your whole day, your whole attitude, unless you're really looking to feel that way. And I think there are people that are only happy when they're unhappy.
Well, sure, they have an agenda. And
Bitching. I like to bitch. Not me. I don't, but lots of people do.
yes. And what does that serve?
I think that serves for them. This is life and it just sucks. And,
Well, that's the point.
and yeah, that is a self-driven belief.
Yes. A construct, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they
So
think
how do-
that's how their life is and
Right.
was
how
meant
do-
to be.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
that's
interrupt.
okay.
So how do we let our listeners know what they can do about it or how to even identify that? Because I'm going to share something with you. When I'm in that space, it's hard to pull yourself out of it. In the moment, I'm talking about.
Yes.
I mean, the moment passes and things happen and you move on. But when you're there and you're
okay.
feeling it,
Don't wait
it's
till you're
hard
there.
for me.
Don't wait till
well,
you're
that's
there.
the point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When you're
'Cause
getting
there,
ready for
it's-
work, you know the people that are going to pull your chain that day or might try to. Decide
Good point.
when someone pulls my chain, because usually we know who that's going to be, this is how I'm going to respond. And it's without anger. You might even look at them and say, whatever you say. And they'll go, what? To themselves, what? But that'll make them less apt to pull your trigger. You just have to say, my feelings and the way they affect my body are more important than me just responding in a way that I'm making her mad or giving satisfaction to him, whatever.
Well, one awareness I think it's important for people to understand is to, again, and I've talked about this before, stepping outside the circle. When we're reactionary is when we get ourselves in trouble. We don't give thought to that moment where we can, like you said, change your response to the trigger and then you change your reality. So again, sharing for me personally, it's sometimes really hard for me. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Once you're there, you're already walked through the door. You're in already.
The door's open.
Yes. So there's
But you
nothing
can-
you can do.
Yes, there is.
Well-
You can still stand at the doorway and think. And that person's wondering what you're going to say.
Well, that's
And,
true.
and you could even
True.
just say, I prefer not to have this conversation. You really have to think of
No, I
these things
get you. I
ahead.
get you. Absolutely. That makes sense.
Because otherwise, you're always going to be, and I don't want to say a rivalry, but you just know this person is always going to antagonize you.
Well, that might be their thing. They might
Don't-
enjoy
yeah, but-
combat. They might enjoy
That's okay,
combat.
but don't combat with me.
Right,
'cause
right.
I'll take you down.
That's very funny. So what, the opposite of frustration?
What is the opposite of frustration?
Mm-hmm.
Joy.
Yes.
Feeling joyful. I'm frustrated. Or I've been frustrated with my word processor since I bought them 1.5 years ago. I just can't seem to get them. They work fine when they're all set up, but they don't seem to recognize the printer. I came over here today and something I printed at home yesterday came out here. Oh yeah. When we were on vacation in
That's
Florida, I came home and my printer had printed what my brother-in-law in Florida had put on his machine.
gosh.
And I said, his name is Fred. Fred, there's some stuff, because they came up to visit. There's some stuff that just came out of my machine.
You mean randomly?
Somehow, because his phone was there, just the computer connections.
Maybe the Bluetooth.
It is the
picking up,
Bluetooth.
yeah.
Oh, it's definitely the Bluetooth. But that's pretty amazing. I would love to be able to just get it on the printer that I'm using right at the moment and not have to drive to work to pick up my stuff. But, it doesn't always happen like that. But I feel like that I decided last night with my printer at 9 o'clock, okay, I'm either going to blow you up somehow, or I'm just going to pack it all up till tomorrow and go take a shower.
You know what, though? You make a very good point. I don't think you realized. Because sometimes surrendering, in a sense, to it, right, is the best option. And then come back, revisit it at another time where...
when I'm mentally more alert.
Yes, exactly. You have clarity, you have more focus, and you're grounded. Because when you're frustrated, you're not grounded.
Right.
You've given away your power at that moment.
Yes. And it takes me, I can be frustrated a long time before I'm not grounded. Whereas my husband
What?
is frustrated. 30 seconds later, he's ready to just forget it.
Yeah, Al's really good at that, isn't he?
I'm very patient. And I'll just get, okay. And yet I call him to help me with those problems. And he does. He does.
Yeah,
Which is amazing.
He has a pretty good threshold till he gets to a certain point, and then he gets frustrated himself. And he's
about
pretty,
his stuff.
Yes,
he
yes, but he's pretty good
frustrated.
about that.
Yeah.
I've observed that about him.
Yes,
I think that's...
he's usually very patient with me, because he knows when I go, Al, I can hear, oh shit, it's the printer again.
That's very funny. Very funny.
Yeah. So how do you deal with it? Well, that's just one of the... Think before you speak. Choose. Do you want to have that kind of relationship with this person that's triggering you? If you say, yeah, I like getting that, well, then go for it. But if you say no, you need to change your response, think ahead of time. But that's not the only thing that causes frustration. It's people, it's things, it's aggressiveness. Oh my God. Frustration in traffic. Beep, 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 beep.
No,
because you're not
absolutely.
making a right on red because you can see a car coming that maybe that person can just...
Guilty as charged, by the way. I used to be really bad at that, Joe.
that you wouldn't make the right?
Well, coming from...
Or the beeper.
Being born and raised in Manhattan in New York City...
Oh, well, you have to be...
and learning to drive there, you have to be very aggressive. So I think that kind of was the modality of what I learned throughout my entire life with driving, and I became an aggressive driver. And now I am aggressive when I need to be in traffic sometimes, but I've really focused on not getting agitated or frustrated with other people. There used to be times I'd be behind someone that they were driving slow, and I'd honk, and I'd look down at the speedometer, and I'm 15 miles above the speed limit, yet I'm still honking at this person.
Yeah.
So it took discipline and a focus, but I've gotten much better. I still at times slip back a little bit. I don't get aggressive, but I'm aware that I'm triggered.
And beeping the horn is aggressive to the person behind you.
Yes.
Because you're looking all around to see who's doing it. Is it for me? What am I doing wrong?
Now, there are times I will get on the horn, but not because I'm being aggressive. It's to protect myself because someone's like, let's say, veering over in their lane and they're not aware of it. And I'll do a quick little boom, boom, on the horn, beep, beep, just to bring awareness to them. Not that I'm angry, but, because if I didn't, maybe they'd hit me. So there are times when I'll honk my horn, but I used to do it aggressively.
And there's beep, beep, and then there's beep,
Right,
beep.
right, no, right, yeah,
They
yeah,
know.
yeah. No, of course,
It
exactly,
has its own tone.
exactly. So, again, I think boundaries, an awareness of the now. We again, I think reactionary is not healthy.
No, but
In certain circumstances, you're in combat and you're in a situation in literally in war.
Well, that's different.
Yes,
That's
but
different. You
but
have to-
otherwise,
and you are going to react.
yes,
You can react, but think first.
filter
Yeah, think.
boundaries.
And also think of consequences.
Well, true. In the same sort of reality of change your perspective, you change your reality. Someone cuts you off, it's gotten pretty ugly before. People have been shot,
Oh, yeah.
chased down, jumping out of their car with tire irons and baseball bats coming after you. It's being aggressive. As a matter of fact, it's so funny. The other day, over the weekend, I was downtown and I was having brunch with a buddy of mine. And when we were leaving, we were crossing the street and these two guys were walking across the street. And the one guy turns to me and goes, "What are you looking at?" and said a profound, word to me. And I didn't respond. I could have. I'm like, what are you talking? Even I knew that anything I would have said to that person would have
triggered.
anything. I could have been like, oh,
He was just looking for an opening.
yes. And I didn't give it to him
Yeah.
because I knew had I even just responded, I didn't even have to respond. Had I just turned around, he would have come at me in aggression, which he already was. And we had just literally passed each other. There were there was him and his buddy and me and my friend. And we just were crossing the street and he just was like, "What are you looking at?" But not just aggressive, like,
He was looking for a fight.
yes, there was definitely something there.
That's when I always turn around and go, "Who's he talking to?"
that can even
I know it.
trigger
I'm
someone.
talking to you, buddy.
No, I know, yeah. But my point is I had consciousness at that moment. Because maybe
That
in the
was
past
good.
I would have been like, "What are you talking about? I wasn't looking at you. Like, mind your own business."
Yeah.
There's so many
Oh,
ways you could have sort of deconstructed that event, but I didn't, and it just passed. Nothing happened. He kept on walking, and we went to the car and we left. But I think again, all of that changes the reality of what really could unfold, and that's kind of I used it for whatever reason it happened, but I'm using that example to let our audience, our listeners, know that really how you respond is how it unfolds. So it's not the trigger, it's you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The trigger is just the universe sort of presenting something to you. It's how you really handle it and deal with it that matters.
And if it's something that's really a deep-seated, you didn't expect that trigger, but it reminds you of something that happens, you need to work through that.
Absolutely.
You really do.
Yes.
Because there are so many triggers. I think about a man and a woman's relationship or any partner's relationships. If something is said that reminds the person that it's being said to of a negative or a positive experience, they're going to be triggered. And maybe the person saying it has no idea.
Oh, that happens a lot.
Of course it does.
We
Of
have a
course it
friend
does.
that
Been there, done that. Nobody's going to do that to
we
me
know
again.
people in our lives
That's the negative one.
that experience things that are completely opposite from our intentions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's
it triggers
another
to the
thing.
point where they misinterpret.
Yes,
I
very
think that's
important
very important
for our
bring up.
listeners to understand. And addressing that issue with that person, come to them with compassion, because you just hit the nail on the head. A lot of times they're not even aware
Not even aware.
of their response.
And that's when you say, what made you react that way? Because I'm unaware of it and I want to be aware of it. So I don't do it again, even though they need to work through it. You wouldn't do it on purpose.
Right.
But it may be something that you normally would do, but they've had a bad experience with that. You just never know.
Yeah, in the way that we are all individuals, that not one thumbprint is the same. We are all individuals. We all have our own energy, our own interpretations. We need to be more compassionate
And our own past.
Yes.
I don't care how long you've been with someone, you've had lots of experiences with other people and situations that could be triggered. They don't just come from your partner.
Exactly. So I guess what Joe and I are trying to tell you guys is just have awareness and compassion for yourself. Hold space for yourself. Understand when something happens, how you react to it is how your life will unfold.
And you can change that reaction. But I do think it's very important, if it's somebody that you care about, to share why you reacted that way with the other person. And hopefully that person cares enough to say, what happened here? Can you explain to me why you got so angry or so frustrated? Because, frustration is what we call in hypnosis the secondary step to any emotion at all. You have an emotion, if you have it over a period of time, a negative emotion, it's called frustration. When you have that frustration over, and everybody's different, weeks, days, months, whatever, it then becomes depression. When you haven't dealt with it.
That's a really good point, Joe.
Yeah, and that's a depression that easily can be fixed. It's not clinical depression where there's a chemical that's missing. It is situational. When you've decided you are not going to deal with the frustration, and now you spend a lot of time in your room, you're quiet, you don't respond. Yeah.
That's a wonderful point.
Well, it's
I'm
very
really
important.
glad. I'm really glad you brought it up.
Okay.
Because this is
Yeah.
a lot of the pathway to depression and other things. Obviously, there can be chemicals that are impacting, or the body not producing chemicals.
Yeah, that's
that,
a totally different kind of depression.
Yes. But that being said,
Most depressions come from
I don't know why I'm
frustration.
connecting with this, but this is what our show is about: is identifying, presenting.
An awareness.
Yes.
Everything we do
So
is awareness.
Exactly. And the more our audience can understand about who they are, the easier their life is going to be to navigate. And that's really the purpose of this. So I'm really glad this is, we've done a lot of different shows, but this is a really important thing because it's so basic on so many
And
levels.
depression is at an all-time level, especially among our youth.
Yes.
So,
Millennials,
yeah.
Gen X, Gen Z,
yeah.
all of them.
Even kids in junior high.
No, I know.
Depression is awful. And I say the first thing, and I'm not a doctor, but I know from all the readings I do, the first thing you do before you medicate is take the blood levels, see what the vitamin D level is, because one of the very first symptoms of lack of enough vitamin D is depression. That's absolutely fixable.
Yes.
Once you fix that, look at your life. See, what are you frustrated about? You hate school? You hate the kids in school? That's a lot of what kids are. You hate social media? And what can you do about it? Because you have to do something about it. That frustration leads to depression. And kids don't know how to deal with those feelings. Young people don't always know how to deal with those feelings. Don't want to tell their parents because their phone will get taken away.
Yeah, there's a lot of distractions, so to speak, in the universe that take us away from that narrative. Yeah. And it's something that's very important that all of us need to pay attention to. Because I don't think you can talk to one person, I mean, maybe the monk in a cave in Tibet, but most
You don't get to talk to him.
well, that's my point. Those are the people that aren't impacted by these daily kind of life grinding scenarios. And triggers and frustration are at the heart of it, of everything in our lives, right?
Yes, they are. Yeah. That's why I say we could do shows on trigger forever, because there's so many triggers in life. And a lot of them, there's positive triggers too. You hear a song that you like. You see a
cell
face
memory.
that you love. Yeah.
That's more cell memory. But they
Yeah,
trigger
but that's
you.
what triggers.
Yes.
Yeah, cell memory is what the trigger comes from.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where they live. They live in the cells, triggers.
Yes.
And they come out when you least expect.
Yes.
Or sometimes you
But
do expect it.
what's very important, and I've just recently sort of garnered this kind of information, is when those parts of our deep shadow side emerge, we just need to embrace it and love it because it's looking to be redeemed. We were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
That part of you that's inside that has not seen the light, and I'm speaking metaphorically.
The dark triggers you're talking
Yes.
about. Yeah.
When the light begins to shine on them, things begin to happen internally, physically, literally in our bodies, and emotionally. And we need to understand when this happens and to identify it and just let it be. We always want to fix everything. And I want our listeners to understand this piece of who we are, that we need to just let it be. Hold space for yourself in that moment of where it comes up and just love yourself. Just let that part of you know.
You mean when you're negatively triggered?
Yes.
You mean like forgive yourself because you were so triggered?
Yes, yes, that this is just a part of you, a part of what happens, and to not create more negativity or more blame, guilt, shame, whatever you're bringing to the table, so to speak, you temper it. You can deal with it much easier when you don't heap all of that other internal stuff on yourself. So just hold space and just say, I love you. I can't do this without you. And just let it go. Just literally let it go. Just love that space, that part of you, and just let you know that you're here for that place, that part of you that is so impacted, that it has been in the dark for so long. Let the light just shine and just be compassionate, benevolent.
And I'm going to say, really look at it. Really look at it and say, how can I change my perception of this? What can I find positive about this situation that I can focus on so the next time I'm triggered, I'm only going to think of the positive things. That's not so easy to do.
No.
But that's very important because that's like moving through the negative emotion and seeing a different side of it, because everything has a light and a dark, I believe. And the more light you shine on it, the less dark it is. So how do you make it lighter? Change your perspective about it. Maybe it's, well, I guess you would have to take that from situation to situation.
Yes.
Maybe it's just speaking to the person and making them understand why you feel the way you do about a certain thing.
Well, in communication, obviously, there's resolution. But that
Should be.
Yes. That being said, but allowing yourself to express, Joe, and share really is helpful for building a space internally to move through all of this. That's really the point of all these shows, is giving our audience, our listeners, a understanding of who they are so they can step in their power, stay in their power, navigate their lives without a lot of conflict or upset or all those other things that trigger us.
Right, but I'm putting myself now in the shoes of clients that I've had who say, I could never talk to my partner about this. My partner would never be receptive to this. I'm presuming that they've tried. So let's say they've tried and that partner does not want anything to do with it. Then it's on you to change your perspective or change your relationship.
Yes,
Really.
absolutely.
Really, because if you want to live your life like that with someone that doesn't want to hear you, that's your choice.
Yes. And it's definitely choice.
Absolutely,
Because
it's
there are
choice.
many of us who come to terms, certainly in a relationship, that understands, I'm not getting what I need anymore. This person's very negative or down. I don't feel supported. I don't feel loved. I don't feel nourished. I don't feel, all of those.
Not getting what I need.
Yes. And as hard as it is, it's the greatest gift you can give yourself to say, I need more. I'm not getting, and I need to move on. And you're not moving on to someone else. You're moving on to you. You're honoring you. And when you honor you, you nurture yourself and you hold space for yourself, then you bring someone into your life that aligns with those beliefs, those feelings you have. And it's like a moth to a flame. It's the law of attraction. If you begin to resonate in this place of love and you're working on yourself, you're handling these triggers, you're really beginning to take control, step into your power, so to speak, then you bring again that person in your life who will support you. Because
I think you do a favor for your partner too when you make that break, because if you're not getting what you need, he's probably not getting what he needs, or she.
well, they definitely are not, but
So you're doing them a favor, but they don't know it yet.
Right. But they also could be in a place of a type of pathology where they're sort of expressing these behaviors because it's their comfort zone, so to speak. This is where they're comfortable. So, you're doing it for you, but you are doing them a favor by doing this.
I think so too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess we've come to the end here today. We've talked so much, Joe, and
Well, how about some final thoughts on frustration?
okay, perfect. Perfect.
It's worth thinking about frustration because the better able we are to handle it, the more we're able to succeed. It seems that frustration and tolerance is an important predictor of success because you do have to learn to deal with a certain amount of frustration. I'm not saying people should remove all the frustration in their life. Just choose. If you know that so-and-so and so is going to bring frustration in the workplace or in the home place, see what you can do about it.
Well,
So
that's
you're
the whole...
more- yeah.
Sorry to interrupt,
That's
but
all right.
that's the whole point. You're triggered for a reason.
For self-growth.
you-
It really is an opportunity for self-growth, but not continually till it becomes depression.
Right. But when we hold space for ourselves, we begin to feel much better about who we are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everything changes in our life. So we want to thank all of you here today for joining us. And we look forward to next week. And we hope all of you have a wonderful week, that you heard what we had to say. And just remember, lead with love. And what else, Joe? Any
Think
parting words?
before you respond to a frustrating situation. Lead with love and light. Think first. Because you're liable to change the other person who is the agitator. You're going to change their whole day by being kind and not negative in your response.
I just want to end with this. Every act of self-care, every act of kindness elevates consciousness
Absolutely.
on the planet, not just in your world, but it impacts everyone.
And soon we will be having guests, but we have quite a few guests that have come down with the flu, so some changes had to be made. But we will be having guests in the near future. So we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great one.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.